must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi. Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are. This is the Political Command Center of Punchline Africa. This is an African show that joins Africa, that brings Africa together. Diplomatic Leaks today looked at, again, last week, the sanctions. Everybody in the African continent, on the African continent, said sanctions must be removed from Zimbabwe. But today we want to look into another aspect. What can SADC and AU, what can East Africa get, what can ECOWAS get out of Zimbabwe using the economic viability, the political climate, which is very, very conducive. What can these countries around Africa come in to help in making Zimbabwe a better place? I am joined from Harare on the panel by Abigail Mupambi. Good morning, Abigail.
A very good morning to you, Doctor. A very good morning to you, colleagues and Pan-African News Africa.
Thank you very much. And again, online, I'm joined by live video link from Harare, Maganza, my good comrade. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, all Africans on the African continent.
Back in Nairobi, I'm joined by lawyer advocate of the High Court, Kidi Mwaga. Good morning. Unmute your equipment.
Yes. Thank you, Daktari. Good morning.
Good morning.
And glad to join you, yes.
Yes, good morning, lawyer from Nairobi. Thank you very much. We are also joined by Professor Gerard Onyari. Are you there, Professor? Our professor might have gone out, or he's coming back. He's attending to one or two things. Across in Nairobi again, we are joined by Shoni Wesonga. Good morning.
Very good morning, Dr. Matsanga. Of course, I'm coming on just a few moments from now by a live video from Nairobi here, Kenya.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Onyari, Magaza, Kidi, Sean, Abigail Mpambi, and now we are joined by Miriam Ogutu in the studios of Punchline Africa in Nairobi headquarters. Good morning, Miriam.
A very good morning to you, Doctor, and a very good morning to our panelists who are also our guests from Zimbabwe and indeed the rest from Kenya.
Okay, thank you very much. If you can introduce the topic and leave it to the panel, then I will take it from there to explain the topic, then allow the panel to dissect it, to engage, to interact. The rules don't allow your person to go on for a long time. When you do the hand like this, we shall allow you to come in. This topic is very crucial so that people, students who are doing international diplomacy and Pan-Africanism, borderless country, integration, trade in Africa, security in Africa, we need to know which other conditions are prevailing in other African states. And that is why we bring in this topic every week to link us with the rest of Africa, which is not linkable through our normal communication. Thank you very much. Over to you, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor, for that introduction. Now, as we know, the topic for the day is how can AU and SADC tap into rich, vast human and natural resources base Zimbabwe possesses. And Zimbabwe recently commemorated SADC Anti-Sanctions Day, with the African Union and the Southern Africa government adding that their voices to growing calls for the unconditional removal of illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe by the United States and the European Union. The SADC-initiated commemorations were held under the name Resilience, Progress and Solidarity under an environment of sanctions, an apt description of trials and tribulations that Zimbabweans have endured under the yoke of the illegal economic embargo.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that introduction. What can the AU, SADC, EU, East African Community, ECOWAS, African multinational companies, what can they tap in? What are available? What is available to be sold? What can you do to help Zimbabwe recover? What can you do to make that sanctions are out? What reach economically? Why is the West so much interested in Zimbabwe? Why is America putting sanctions on Zimbabwe and continue to make sure that any banker that deals with Zimbabwe, it has got sanctions? Individuals are targeted. Why? These are some of the reasons as we answer this question. I will start with Mupambe. Ma'am Abigail Mupambe, give us, break the floor for us.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Matsanga. It's a crucial topic that we are having today, and of course, a few days after the whole continent of Africa joined Zimbabwe in solidarity to call against the illegal sanctions that have paralyzed the economy and, of course, all sectors here in Zimbabwe. What I can probably say in the lobby for, in particular, SADC and the AU is to say that for long, whether... Oh, can you hear me properly?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you, Abigail. Go ahead.
Thank you. What I can lobby the AU and in particular SADC nations is to say maybe probably we now need to graduate from the issue of verbal and advocacy language of supporting Zimbabwe and begin to say what is that which we can do that is practical in assisting Zimbabwe. Remember, like we have been putting across, Doctor, to say that even the nations who want to trade with the Zimbabwe and to cooperate with the Zimbabwe are also threatened with the same sanctions should they help Zimbabwe. But can we really stop helping our kith and kins because we fear the neighbor or we fear the external force? I think African countries must also take a bold step and cross the line to show that indeed they want to support a brother who is, of course, in between a hard rock right now and a hard surface. I'll give you an insight. Zimbabwe gained independence in 1980, way ahead of South Africa. But at some point, we even delayed our own land reform so that we allow and help South Africa, allow them to also attain their independence. We sacrificed a lot practically to allow, and of course, to allow South Africa, we mentioned South Africa and other countries. In DRC, we lost a lot of our gallant sons and daughters. Supporting them, it was practical action. So I think we need at the moment, we need practical action from the SADC nations, practical action from the AU, and this is all we need at the moment. And I think it's possible that is if everyone can tune in to the right spirit. We have got vast natural resources. I will mention the issue of gold and the diamonds and across all these other minerals. All we need now at the moment is to say, can we have supporting mechanisms of processing companies around and across SADC than to have our gold waiting or relying on such markets of the people who are actually fighting us. We need practical action. We need the right spirit. We know very well that there are countries right now, like South Africa. I will repeat South Africa because actually most of our working class right now, they are in South Africa. What kind of treatment are they getting? Are they also showing that they're in solidarity with us, or they are taking advantage of the situation? We want practical action from our regional friends, our regional allies, and of course the African continent. I thank you.
All right, very well. Doctor, who else do we have there? I think we have Philip Chibata. He joined a while ago. Philip, good morning.
Good morning, my dear. How are you doing?
We're doing very well.
Yeah,
Thank
fine,
you.
thank you.
Doctor, how are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you, Mr. Kibata. I can see you are well positioned, maybe in Madrid or Singapore or Malaysia. We don't know where you are, but thank you, in Harare. Thank you very much. What can AU and SADC, ECOWAS, East Africa tap in? What can they tap in? What can they bring in to reactivate the economy of Zimbabwe? What can Zimbabwe offer? What are the prospects of people, coming in to help? What policy have you got in place? What are you using? How are you, publicizing the entire exercise? Whom have you approached? How do we lobby? Do we have lobby groups abroad? Do we have lobby groups worldwide? Do we have lobby in Washington? Do we have lobbies? Or we have left it for God to help us and not ourselves? So what can we do, Mr. Chibata, before I bring in Mr. Magasa?
No, thank you so much, Doctor. I am not far away from Zimbabwe today. I am right in our neighborhood. You can see that this is Santon Joburg.
Yes.
And it's well developed. Santon is now very developed. This is something that we can do also in Zimbabwe by utilizing the resources that are found in Africa. Africa is very rich. Africa has all the resources. I was so hurt one time when I was watching a video of a white guy who was saying we should make sure we take resources, raw materials from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and never allow them to develop so that we can build Europe and our Western world and all that. However, what can we do? Instead of mourning, we need to move forward, a gear forward. We have shown that we are champions of our own. When we want to rise, Africa can stand its ground. We need to begin to stand our ground. I'm so happy and glad when I was listening to my sister, Abigail, as she elaborated and clearly stated what we need. What can these other countries learn from Zimbabwe, and what can they bring in Zimbabwe is what we can say. One, learn from Zimbabwe, from the brevity. I've seen people that are brave and that can stand with their own. You see, these sanctions were once meant to remove a government, and the people of Zimbabwe resiliently stood head and toe with their government, with their brothers, and we are grateful for that. And now what can other countries come and contribute to Zimbabwe? As we said, Africa has a lot of resources and a lot of money. And what we need to build our cities, our industries, and all, we can find everything in Africa. We don't even have to go beyond the seas. We can be within, just cross the rivers, and we'll be okay. So right now, we have experts like you. We have experts like the people that are in South Africa. This includes the white community, the Indian community, those who claim and believe they are Africans. If we put our heads together and come, say, to Zimbabwe and build 2-3 cities, we'll be so grateful. Or build roads, build towers, or we come to Zimbabwe and we find ways of find ways of taking, say, 10,000, 20,000 hectares, grow food, and sell to the Middle East. We do not have a shortage of markets. We have lots of markets. We can actually do that. So Zimbabwe needs to begin to change its policy towards the African investor and make it much more easier so that you can bring in the capital and the resources to begin to work together, not only for the benefit of Zimbabwe, but for the benefit of Africa. We should stop taking our resources to the Europeans. We should bring our African resources to Africa. Africa is going to be one of they say because of our numbers. We have the numbers so far, but they say by 20 something will be in billions, which means we will have the markets and we have the resources, the natural resources. What the world is looking for, we have it in Africa. So we need to now to begin to mobilize and ask ourselves as Africans to say, what do we need to do amongst ourselves to make ourselves better? We have the brains, we have the resources, we have the land. God has blessed Africa so much. So we need now to put our heads to develop and realize that development in Africa is not going to come from the Westerners. Neither is it going to come from anyone else, but from Africans.
Thank you very much. We cross over to, you raised, Miriam will come up with a summary of the points that you have raised. Let me come to Magaza. Thank you very much. What is your contribution? What's the input? What do you have on the ground before I come to the compatriots in Kenya? Those who would like to invest in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, how much do you want to invest? How do you go about it? Which industry, which help can you do to bring about changes of economic enhancement in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much, Doctor, for having me. We find out that Zimbabwe has got a vast array of mineral deposits which are there and very valuable and are scarce in the world, but here they are abundant. Meaning to say, what is needed on the minerals is value addition and beneficiation. The challenge we have on value addition and beneficiation is that we do not have the skills to add value to those minerals and the beneficiation part of it. We need to produce products from those minerals rather than exporting the minerals raw. Because those who come and extract, let's say foreign companies who come and extract raw minerals from Zimbabwe and take them to their countries, they develop those minerals, they process those minerals, add value to them, and they resell them to us, Africa, the countries which will have produced them, at a very much astronomical price. And so it is now our turn as Africa, as SADC, and Africa as a whole, to make use of the expertise of our local guys who have worked in other countries, who have been adding value to minerals in the countries they are working in, so that they bring back that knowledge and we make and maximize on that knowledge so that at least we will be able to produce our own and export to the world finished products. And then the world buys from us and make it the opposite of them, us buying what we produce. The other issue I feel is that Africa is full of intellectuals. We have got engineers, business people, those in finance, and also in creative fields. And so all those people can contribute through mentorship. And then, which means the mentorship we talk about is that they will disseminate information to citizens, whereby we've got local professionals who are here. It doesn't need them to be here physically, but they can share their expertise and experiences cost effectively through podcasts, webinars, DVDs, and blogs, or even as what we are doing. This can even extend to academic institutions where lectures can be held via a similar method from local professors who are based abroad and in other countries as well. We also need, as a country in Africa, to retain those scarce skills who are based in other countries, so that we make use of those skills they have acquired and produced the best we can. We have got a Zimbabwean who is based in the United States of America. I've forgotten the county which is based in. But I understand he has made some inventions which are there. And then simply because of a foreigner, he is facing challenge of getting a patent for the inventions which he has made. And they are cost effective. What if our governments or our government makes use, steps in on that professionalism, on those guys, and bring their ideas back here? And then we make sure that we as Zimbabwe, other than them producing in America, they come and produce in Zimbabwe, they come and produce in Mozambique, in South Africa, and everywhere. And then we export, as I was saying before. By so doing, it means our government, or our governments need policy reviews so that those highly skilled professionals with those scarce skills can be helped to set up businesses. For example, in mineral processing, as I was saying, in value addition and beneficiation, as well as other key areas of the economy. Once that is done, we will make sure that we will attract those skilled professionals as such. We also feel that those highly skilled professionals who are abroad or who are into management, or we need to unboost them by asking them to come back into the trenches, physically apply their knowledge. And then, whilst they do not lose their monetary gains they had gained whilst they were in those countries. And so, which means the government should make sure that they have got to create some conducive environments which attract those professionals locally based, because we had the white Zimbabweans, we had black Zimbabweans, or we have who are abroad and who still feel that they have not lost their Zimbabwean identity or their Mozambican, South African, or Kenyan identity. And lastly, what we produce, I feel that we have got to start by selling to each other as African countries. What Kenya produces, exports to Zimbabwe. What Zimbabwe produces, exports to Kenya, exports to South Africa, Mozambique, and the like. Rather than us waiting to rely on what China produces. Mostly in Africa, we are used as a dumping ground. Those undervalued products are the ones which are sold to Africa, whereby Europe is produced high quality standards. So why can't we produce our own high quality standards for the African countries, for the African user? I rest my case.
Right. Very well. Thank you so much. So in Kenya here, I think we have a Kidi, he's a lawyer here in Kenya. Kidi, listening to that conversation coming from Zimbabweans themselves who are saying, even as we look at really the kind of potential Zimbabwe has an abundant natural resources, including diamond, gold, coal, iron ore, chromium, vanadium, asbestos, nickel, copper, lithium. Like, Zimbabwe is not really a poor country if we were to go with what Zimbabwe already have. So what do you make of the conversation that we've been hearing from our guests from Zimbabwe? Kidi.
I hope I have unmuted right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. Thank you, Miriam. Well, having had wonderful submissions from my very distinguished seniors, there is very little I can say, but this is what I have to say. That one, if you permit me to use an African saying that he who has the gold calls the tune. And therefore, there have been concerns that the West is over-concerned about Africa and Zimbabwe and such. So I think the first thing to do in salvaging the Zimbabwean question is to make sure that African Union makes necessary investment to inject cash into Zimbabwean economy, so that Zimbabwe is then able to have financial reserve to be able to transact its businesses. Around 2009, when there was superinflation, and then the currency that was being used in Zimbabwe was American dollar and the South African rand. So that is one area that, in my estimation, as African Union can help Zimbabwe in helping it rebuild itself. The second area, if you permit me to quote the words of Kwame Nkrumah, is that seek ye first a political kingdom and all else shall be added unto thee. I say that it is incumbent upon Zimbabweans working jointly with the African Union to ensure that they build sustainable political institutions. Because, as Abraham Lincoln once observed, that there is no man who is good enough to rule another man without that other man's consent. And we say that governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. So it is incumbent upon Zimbabweans working jointly with the African Union to ensure that they put in place sustainable political institutions that therefore deals with the questions of transfer of power, so that at no point do they have to go to the streets and fight.
But we already have that in Zimbabwe. They had elections. It is a democratic country right now, so they had the elections. So when you say sustainable political institutions, what exactly do you mean?
Brilliant. So I will respond to that. That democracy is not limited to regular elections. If you look at African countries, especially during the era of single-party state, you realize that even in that era, we had regular elections. But then there is more that goes into democracy than just elections. So that one, there must be a vibrant press, there must be a vibrant civil society, there must be, the human rights must be upheld, and then there must be equality before the law. So that if, for instance, you have a judicial system that does not is not a fair arbiter, then you realize that in itself it is a first step towards decline, towards anarchy. So that these are institutions and these are things that I think are incumbent upon Zimbabweans, of course working jointly with African Union for purposes of technical support, in making sure that they therefore stop being a giant that is punching under its weight. Thank you.
So all of that, I think, the attendance of human development, if I remember my classes very well. But okay.
I think let me come in here.
Yes, Professor.
To bring in the debate. Zimbabwe is a rich country.
Brilliant.
But Zimbabwe is surrounded, demonized, embargoed not to trade with other countries. It has commodities. Miriam has mentioned several commodities. Not that they are poor, no. But because someone has used the human rights measurement, the degree of human rights, how high, how tall, how hot, how cool it is. And yet we see a lot of human rights abuses in America, for example, where a Somali lady in the Republican Party cannot speak. And yet she won the votes in Minnesota. You know that a Somali lady friend of mine who resembles like a Musa Abid Haji. In fact, they are the same. He's a relative of ours from Kitale. The lady comes from Kitale. She's not a Somali. She's from Kitale, then went to Lodwar, then went to America and became a refugee in America. But this lady stands up to speak. When she wants to speak against the Republican administration, Trump wants to slaughter her. What do you call that in the United States? Are they human rights? Is that observance of human rights? Black people are being stepped on their chains. America has gone to Afghanistan and slaughtered the people. America went to ISIS, slaughtered the people. America went to Iraq, slaughtered the people. Who has brought America to justice to ask, why do you go to Afghanistan? Because there is a conduit of selling cocaine. You remember the sale of cocaine by the Contra groups. Those of you who are historians or those who study international relations, the Contra group, the cocaine, Panama, Norwegia. Anybody who knows the name of Norwegia, the president of Panama, who was carried and arrested by Americans, sentenced through another country called France, detained in France until he died. You see, but what was Norwegia doing? Norwegia was selling, Norwegia was selling cocaine. General, on behalf, trains and trains, plane loads of cocaine flew into Panama from Panama to US. So, but when they were found out, they turned on the man and they said, no, we must arrest him. They went and arrested another president. What are the human rights there? Degree. So what Zimbabwe is saying is those who are coming to contribute, they have the resources, but they have a bottleneck. One of the bottlenecks is bad publicity abroad about alleged human rights that they are not there. You have seen that the MDC, at least in Uganda now, the political party in Uganda, they are beating people. It's true, you can see. That Kasimoro boy called Bobby Wine is being beaten. I don't know whether his muscles will be enough to hold like a Matangas. He's getting the beating that I got long time ago. That's the type of beating that Museveni wanted me to go through. Even when he comes to London, he wanted to beat me in London. So the type of beating that a man is receiving now is not being condemned. But they have gone to Zimbabwe to condemn. Is America not seeing what is happening in Cameroon? Is America not seeing what is happening in Nigeria? Is America, has it put sanctions on Paul Rubia? Why have you put sanctions on Zimbabwe, which has held a democratic election and it passed? Chamisa got 1-point-something million votes, and the ZANU-PF got 2-point-something million votes. And they all contested, went to court, and the court ruled in favor of the ruling party. Is that not good enough? Is that not one you can work with? Do you call that a semi-democratic, non-democratic institution? No. We have that problem. And as we stand now, Zimbabwe has its minerals. It can sell, if you allow Zimbabwe to sell its diamonds. Believe me or not, Kidi and Musa, and the rest of the panel, especially those from Kenya, if you allow Zimbabwe to sell diamonds, the market of diamonds will be very, very low, because it could pour the rest of the diamond to the world that will serve us for another 10 years. And that has become a threat now. America does not want Zimbabwe to sell one single diamond, one dot, 1 carat of gold. Because if you allow them to sell, we are done. They are diamonds that they steal from us and then take to Antwerp and make them into diamond glasses, diamond rings. You know, they want to do something that they can gain themselves, but not Zimbabwe. So, given all this, what can SADC, AU, East African Community, ECOWAS, you a businessman in Somalia, a businessman in Sudan, a businessman in Juba, a businessman in Kampala, in Nairobi, what can you do that can bring in, one, stabilize the economy, two, maintain the security of this nation as it struggles to put itself in place, in shape, because it doesn't have loans, no grants, Remember, they have been surviving without those things. That is the topic of the day. So, Miriam, you can go to Musa Abdi Haji Galan.
All right, very well, Musa.
Musa.
And yes, go ahead, Musa. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Dr. Matsanga, the other professors, I think Dr. Matsanga,
We can't hear you.
you can't hear me.
Yes, something is not right. You are usually very audible.
You can get off the headphones. Disconnect.
Take the headphones. The headphones are taking some of the space.
Yeah, you can use
Can you
direct
hear me
without.
now?
Yes.
Yes.
yes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga, the host there, Abigail. Thank you so much for having me on board, and the professors from abroad there. First of all, my humble suggestion here is, Dr. Matsanga, Zimbabwe is a perfect example of a country being the victim of geopolitical and, the issue of bipolar politics happening in the world. And Zimbabwe, in that sense, has been made to speak, Zimbabwe has been portrayed to the global politics as a country of negatives, as a country of bad things, rather than portraying the good things coming. We remember the role Dr. Robert Mugabe played in the Rhodesian War, the war he played in the fight against the fight against colonial dominance. Though they said Mugabe was good when Sally was his wife, and when Grace came, Mugabe changed. But even they changed the tune in a way that they were making this country to having a lot of negatives, portrayed on international stage, having a lot of, negative perspectives portrayed on the international stage. One thing we are forgetting is that there are some countries which are worse than Zimbabwe in this African continent. You go to Angola, that country which was ruled for 42 years by Dos Santos, that country which, when Dos Santos was sick, he will prefer to go to a hospital in Madrid rather than to a hospital in Luanda, Angola, because they have established a good oiled relation with America. Now Angola could not be talked about, simply because the Democratic Republic of Congo, the interest, all these vehicles you are seeing moving in Nairobi streets, 85% of these metal steels are coming from Congo through, the United States of America's interest with Congo. Sarcastically, Congo is portrayed to be, having good image rather than, Zimbabwe. And we can go on to discuss how the United States of America, the bipolar nations, and European Union have been strategically sidelining Zimbabwe. We used to remember, even up to now, Zimbabwe national team as one of the best footballers in Africa.
I'm in a Zoom meeting on telly.
Sorry, I was a bit offline. So we even remember the famous Zimbabwe national football team, which poses one of great footballers in this continent. And then the second question: Zimbabwe has a problem, not especially even how America is portraying it, but the way Zimbabwe neighbors are portraying Zimbabwe to the world. Zimbabwe had never had that willing, supportive, and all the time standing neighbor. You go to Botswana, which has been developing unilaterally. Yes, it's a good country developing, but regionalism, it's as if Zimbabwe have been made to play a very minimal role in South African Development Corporation, that is SADC. You go to Zambia, the great land of Kenneth Kaunda. When the old man left the office, all the relations were cut. So at the first place, I'm not going to blame even, objectively at a larger perspective, United States of America. An enemy will come to you if he knows your neighbor is spying and speaking bad things about you. And so it is in this sense, I will blame the SADC communities, the SADC countries, because they have been making it so hard for Zimbabwe to progress. Look at what happened in Western Africa. When Yahya Jammeh ran out of his mind, the ECOWAS community came together and they said, we are going to retain the sanity of the Gambian nation, and we are going to give Yahya Jammeh 48 hours for him to leave power. He left. That is being a good neighbor. And here we are, when all those things, bad things are happening in, Zimbabwe. None of these countries under SADC, even if it's a development cooperation, they could have came up with, a sanction-free economic bloc, whereby even if you are sanctioned under some treaties by United States, you can still work. Look at what is happening in Iran. Iran has been under sanctions since 1979, but they have developed good petroleum relations with Russia, with China. They are controlling the Strait of Hormuz. That is a country which, since its revolution, has been functioning under sanction. And yet, even if United States of America can do that, then the regional economic bloc can ensure that even if it's a sanction, let it be human rights sanction, let it be global. But when it comes to neighborhood, let's stand for these countries. So I will blame Botswana, I will blame Zambia, I will blame countries like Mozambique, I will blame all these countries in SADC. And to make my final submission, Daktari, Zimbabwe is a perfect example of a country where all the resources are utilized, not in the sense of developing the nation. Zimbabwe, even when you compare to Kenya, Zimbabwe is not having even, the issue of deep state as Kenya. Zimbabwe is a land of culture. When you try to compare the cultural dominance of Zimbabwe and Kenya, you remember that is a land of Oliver Mtukudzi, the man who sang Nerea. When you try to see Zimbabwe's cultural dominance in Southern Africa, it's one of the countries which even, it's very rich in culture. But now the problem they are doing is you cannot provide an inequality social problem with an economic solution. Zimbabwe is facing a very serious issue of land reforms during the time of Robert Mugabe, and even when Robert Mugabe left. I'm trying to speak about the advent of neocolonialism in this. Because when Malema in South Africa said, land compensation without repatriation, the Dutch, the Boers were confused, and they started saying, there is no way this country, we were born here, we were fed here, there is no way we can live here. And yet, when Malema speaks of such issues, then everyone, he's amplified. But when you come to the likes of Chamisa, the late guy who died from cancer, land issue is left untouched in Zimbabwe. It's as if land issue is controlled indirectly by the whites, and yet it is in the name of Africans. I'm simply trying to put it in a way that Zimbabwe is the country like Liberia, whereby Africans are just there by the mercy of post-colonial independence, but they cannot determine and control affairs of their country. Neocolonialism is deeply rooted in Zimbabwe. Up to now, they have been attacking Zimbabwe because Robert Mugabe, Daktari said, you are going to leave this country. White lands are going to be repatriated back to the black people. Now, even the current president, Mnangagwa, instead of solving critical social inequality issues of land, he is jumping to global, international markets and economic system. And I will tell you, a madman said once, you cannot call yourself a clean man. You cannot call your neighbor dirty when you wake up early in the morning. You have not swept even your floor. It starts with you. Mnangagwa is jumping to international liberalization of markets, globalization, and yet the kind of shoes the Zimbabweans are putting on, it's a shoe which can be, interrupted by mud, which water can get in anytime. So Zimbabwean economy should be strengthened by land issue. Land repatriation is very important. So Mnangagwa should take the Magufuli model, whereby instead of being focused on international global scale of, using dollar for the markets economy, first of all, solve the land question, bridge the issue of inequality. Then after that, go to regional, the way like Uhuru Kenyatta is doing after he was done with the East African community. Uhuru Kenyatta went to AU After he was done with AU, Uhuru Kenyatta went to World Trade Organization, even though Amina Mohamed lost. That is how you can go. But now Mnangagwa want to start from the top to come, to down and to the bottom. And that one cannot work. So that is my humble submission, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Musa Mohammed. There are serious points before I come to Professor. Serious points that you have raised. The question of an economic safe unit for SADC. I think, Abigail, I saw you nodding your head. The package, the countries around the SADC have not done a package. The countries around Africa have not collected a bag, a donor type. We have not done a donor conference. We have not. As Africans, we have not sat down in AU and said, Onyali, you have £1. It's a donor conference that one of our neighbors in South Africa is dying. Do you have a donor conference? That is one point, Mohammed Musa Abid, you have raised today, and I hope my colleagues from my colleagues from Zimbabwe, Philip Chabata and Magaza and Abigail, you will take this very serious, because what is it for? When Syria is under siege, AU, UN does a donor conference. Yes. We have never done a donor conference for Zimbabwe. Never. I have never heard about it. No African countries, we have the money. You think now in Africa, there are no people who can do a donor conference? They are there, but nobody has thought about it. The second point that you raised, under which I don't want to sweep under the carpet, I hope the administration in Harare hears. They better hear this, because for us here, we talk the truth. Globalization politics can lead you to very dangerous market waters. And Magaza and Chibata, I don't know, Chibata, you better open your face on this. We are all friends of President Mnangagwa. You better come out, Magaza, Abigail. Globalization economics. And this is something I've been talking about for a long time until people silenced me. Are your policies geared towards alleviating the problem or bringing you more problems? Magaza, you get that point I'm talking about. The policies, Chabata, the policies, economic policies, could be one of the trigger. This younger man has brought something very strange this morning. Could also be a trigger mechanism. We are yapping on a global scenario, yet we don't know how to get a solution for the internal dynamics. Chabata.
Doctor, thank you so much. I hear what the young man, my brother, has said. What the young man, my brother, has said is very valid. We need to be very careful when being friends with people who want to befriend us for the sake of gaining out of us. Again, I'll refer to that video of that white guy who was saying they need to take our resources only and keep sub-Saharan Africa underdeveloped and making sure that all resources are going to the Westerners. However, President Mnangagwa has not given a free ticket to anybody. For 20 years, we've been under sanctions. And the little help that our friends could have done would have been to put up a package, as you said, but there was no package that came. I think a few countries have spoken up, which is very plausible. We have never seen, I'm not sure if South Africa has given us any package, which is actually a beneficiary of our chaos. And the situation in Zimbabwe, let me remind you that it needs us to think very carefully. yes, people like Gaddafi died when they thought that they were now in good books with Westerners. Then their demise came. We need to make sure that we have secured ourselves and realize that politics has no permanence, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. But I would want to submit to you, Doctor, that right now Zimbabwe has done its part, and our friends who are African countries should come together with us. The discourse or discussion we should begin to talk about right now. I heard the young man that talked about human rights in Zimbabwe. I see no other country in Africa that has better human rights than Zimbabwe. However, what I heard or what I'm seeing and what I would want to propose is that human rights violators, the worst human rights violators in the world, is Britain, who came and colonized Africa and stole and took our resources. And we should be bunching together and grouping together as Africans and demanding human rights that we were violated. Our fathers, our grandfathers were raped, were taken away, and were enslaved. America is another human rights violator who we should be demanding reparations. And without that, let's not talk about human rights, because a kid who is so spoiled in the name of MDC goes and tries to sell the country by the back door. That's not human rights. In America, if you do what those guys did to go and talk about Zimbabwe and sell the country, in America you'll be put to jail, you'll be jailed. It's treasonous. So why is it not treasonous when a Zimbabwean goes out and trashes Zimbabwe in a Western country? That's what we should be beginning to think as Africans. But what I want to say to these young people is that we want to see you beginning to think on demanding your reparations for the human rights that were violated by the biggest human rights abusers, the Westerners. They've been the worst human rights abusers in the world. And having watched a video, if nobody saw the video of what they are planning right now to say they need to keep Africa underdeveloped, that is rubbish and nonsense. We should never accept and tolerate such kind of a thing. We need to rise up and put our heads together and begin to think right and put our houses in order. We need to have a united Africa that can stand. We have the resources, we have the brains, we have the manpower. Hey, let us wake up and begin to stand up as we need to respect ourselves before anybody else can respect us as Africans.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Onyari. You have heard, I think I want to make one clarification. Then Professor Onyari, then come to Magaza, and then one clarification. Musa said the West uses human rights as a measurement. He didn't condemn that Zimbabwe human rights are bad. No. I think I think all of you had. He said they use human rights, they use all this as a measurement to sanction, to put countries under sanction. Okay, that is very good. So far the debate is progressing very well. Mr. Chibata, he didn't say.
Doctor, no, it wasn't Musa. It wasn't Musa. It was the young man before
Kidi.
Musa.
It was the lawyer, Kidi, but he also clarified.
Oh, the lawyer Kidi.
And we shall
not Musa, yes, it's true. Kidi, lawyers are advocates of the High Court.
Yes.
Therefore,
we want them to begin to be true lawyers, not to be puppets.
The human rights are usage. Kidi, you have been challenged there. Human rights is more abused in America and Britain. Mm-hmm. And I want to give you a quick story. Mm-hmm. One day I had a problem with my car. And they stopped me. I had my insurance. I had my papers. But they asked me questions asking me questions at the road that, when did you come to this country? So I told the police, now, you asking me when I came to this country, has the car come? This guy did not come with it. I was very rough with the police. At the side of the car, said, what will you do? Nothing. Why are you asking me when I came to this country? I've given you my name, my house. You check your radio call. Will you check my name, my house, my number, my car, and find out if there's a problem? I don't have any problem in Britain. But you're asking me a very serious question. And this is a Jamaican friend, a black man. So we had a tit for tat, the exchange of words. Then they said, now the man came with his, that we want to put you inside the car. I said, no, I'm not going inside the car. What have I done? My car has insurance, tax, paid for, it's mine on my address. You have called and the DVLO has told you it is Matsanga's car. So why are you taking me in? He said, oh, you are trying to obstruct the police work. I said, no, I'm not going. My dear, as we are standing there in the car, they brought a policeman double my size. You know, the policeman double Matsanga's size. By then I was a very small man. But the policeman who came is double my size, huge, Metropolitan Police with uniform. And he stepped out. So when I looked at him twice, I said, you know what? I am dead here. Let me just submit and I will go. So when they put me in the van, this guy sat on me. Honestly, he sat on me. You see where they can kill you. These days, this is 1991. 1991. In London, he sat on me inside the van. There was no camera. Nowadays, there is a camera inside. How you treat he sat on me, I could not breathe. But because I am a trained soldier, when you see such sitting, now don't loosen, don't allow him to gap space and break you. So I tightened my hands like this. So his weight was on this until we reached inside Croydon police station. This is when the man stood up, pretended as if he had known nothing. So when I did like this, I saved my chest, I saved my lungs, I saved my heart. So what do you call human rights? Kiddy, that is in UK. And there is a police commission you can apply. You can now go and record. I could not record because when I reached the police asked what has he done? Oh, he has refused to give us his papers. I don't work with the papers. The papers are in my house. And in any case, you give me a producer to deliver you the papers in 7 days, just as the law is in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe police can give you a producer. It's the only country on the African continent where people are law-abiding, by the way, Mr. Lawyer, if you didn't know. In Zimbabwe, if you are driving, they don't beat you like they beat you in Kenya streets. They will write to you that you are so and so, your license has been removed, you produce your license in 7 days, come to this court or police station. You know, that there is rule of law there. But the West have demonized it. That is the question where we are. What can we do as African? Musa Abdi Haji has brought solutions. Can Kenya, can ECOWAS, can SADC, can AU call a donor conference? Professor Onyali.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga, and the presenters who have presented before me. When sometimes I hear on how we debate and argue on sanctions or some of the things which are being done on the continent of Africa, I say, God help Africa. Because we enter the same trap of the Western people. Dr. Masanga, the sanctions on Zimbabwe, the opposition and those who seem to be the talk about human rights activists, they carried Zimbabwe to the international world, to the international community. They invited sanctions. And now they used on the idea that it is human rights. Fine, you come with human rights, fine, you put it against a country. They cannot be able to afford medicine in the hospitals. They cannot be able to afford people food. Children cannot go to school. They cannot be able to finance their development. Are those not human rights? Which other country, Dr. Masanga, do you know is a violator of human rights than any other country? What happened to George Floyd? What did they do to him? Exactly what you have told us. And the world was watching. Is there anybody who has talked about sanctions? Dr. Masanga, the poor country of Southern Sudan, which has been under sanctions, Dr. Masanga. Someone comes and says $335 million. Sudan. See what's happening in Sudan. That they have to remove that man and pay. So what we need to do, Dr. Masanga, as Africans, we have not done much to support, to come to the aid of Zimbabwe. SADC, I've given them the back. African Union the same. I was so much impressed. And I'm convinced that President Emerson listened to us. He was when he was addressing the SADC meeting, he said, people like countries like Russia and China have stood with them during this sanction period. What is Kenya doing? What's Uganda doing? What's Zimbabwe doing? What's Botswana doing? We have not done much as African people, Dr. Masanga. So, Dr. Masanga, as an African people, we cannot keep on agonizing. You know, when people use economic sanctions, you know what they are aiming. They are aiming at getting the resources, the natural resources, the diamond, the gold of the Zimbabwe people. They want to suffocate them until they give on. Yeah. When you use sanctions, it is equivalent to going to war with you. So my submission, Dr. Masanga, is, you know, the African Union is captured. You know that. The chair, you know, is captured. So when is there anything, you know, sometimes people were asking, will there anything come from Jerusalem? Yes. From Bethlehem? Yes. The Savior came from there. Dr. Masanga, can something come good from the African Union?
No!
Yeah.
I hope you are, Professor, are you talking about Jerusalem of South Africa?
No, I was saying, can something good come from Bethlehem? Yes, from Bethlehem, the Savior was born from there. Dr. Masanga, African Union has been captured. African Union is dead. Can anything come good from African Union to come and liberate Africa?
Nothing.
Oh, a conversation like this.
Nothing.
A conversation like this.
I think the entire panel will agree with zero.
We must look for new friends.
Yes.
When President Emerson was trying to say that Russia has stood with them, China has stood with them as much as they are. Even the other day, they stood in the United Nations Security Council. They said, no, American, you are a violator of the human rights. When you put sanctions, people cannot get medicine in the hospital. They cannot get food. They cannot access clean and safe water to drink. What kind of human rights are you talking about? We need to restructure ourselves, Dr. Masanga. Come with the tactics. We must change our strategy. We must have an agenda. And we need to ask ourselves what we want and how do we want sanctions to be lifted for Zimbabwe. We must know very well. Dr. Masanga, you come from nations or in areas where we have got chicken. And the mongoose lives in the forest. The chicken lives in the house. If the hens move from the house and goes to the forest and the mongoose eats it, Will you blame the Mungus?
No.
So the people of Zimbabwe and the Jamisa should be listening to me. We cannot continue to have the people of Zimbabwe suffering. They should come together under the redemption strategy. You may not agree. Yes, Sangarai is gone. Comrade Bob is gone. But the country is there. They must be able to engage and go to the international community and say that we are working together. The redemption strategy is the key. The handshake is the key, even if they don't agree, for the sake of the people of Zimbabwe. We cannot wait to continue having a talk show every now and again. The people of Zimbabwe, you must put more pressure on your leaders, put the opposition, the government. Let us engage. And I know Emerson is doing very well. Persuade Chamisa and his rights to come to the negotiation table so that we take Africa forward. I submit, Dr. Masongo.
Thank you very much, Professor Nyari. Before I come to Shoni Wesonga, you have raised very serious. We are organizing all the time. We have become Lamentation, the book of Lamentation. Some time back, Professor Nyari, I suggested we should beat the sanctions. Why are we not beating the sanctions? Why is Zimbabwe not giving Kenya the diamond to sell and they give them the money? Yes. In fact, if they are not willing, I will be able to escort that plane freely because I'm a Christian. Doctor, I will not touch even a diamond.
Will they not need the certificate of origin?
And the no. Go and sell and again escort that money. Because, no. Because honestly, a country cannot sell diamonds. We must. Why don't we get the Kenyan certificate to go and sell the diamond quietly? And then I will escort this money back nicely and deliver it to your central bank. You know, we have got to plan. Ian Smith was put on sanctions. But Ian Smith busted the sanctions. Didn't Ian Smith survive? Chavata, you are there. Manganza, you are there. Ian Smith was surviving. Harare was flourishing. There were lights. There was electricity. There was everything. He beat the sanctions. Why are you crying from morning up to evening? Now, time has come for you to do, they are doing mafia, we also do mafia. Yes, no, wait, Abigail, wait. They are doing mafia. Americans are doing mafia. Okay? They were telling people not to sell cocaine, but they are selling cocaine. Do you know where they are getting the cocaine from? They are getting from Afghanistan. Why are they in Afghanistan?
What is there?
No, you tell me why Americans are in Afghanistan. What has Afghanistan got to do with them? Because they are benefiting from they are benefiting from the cocaine. Is the root, is the biggest root of cocaine and bangi, which is needed in American hospitals. You Washamari, you people, why are you not also operating like a mafia? Are you the only children of us on earth whom God has said, keep quiet, don't operate?
The wretched earth.
We should start looking for ways of violating these sanctions by uniting Africans, by telling Africans in Kenya, come and study with us. You cannot stop us from selling the diamonds, which is a given, God-given. You say Zimbabwe diamonds are from a conflict. Show me one conflict. Show me one conflict in Zimbabwe. Show me. Is there a war in Zimbabwe? Is there a war in Zimbabwe? Why should you classify Zimbabwe's diamonds as coming from conflict? Which conflict is in Zimbabwe? The conflict is in the DRC. The conflict is in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
The conflict is in Mozambique. The conflict is not in Zimbabwe. So why have you put Zimbabwe on a list not to sell its diamonds? One reason. Yet they have their diamonds. If they sold them, Abigail, you will not lack a medicine in the hospitals. I want to give you people of Zimbabwe a credit. Despite all these difficulties, you are resilient people. You have managed the COVID-19 very well. I think the panel, we need to clap for these guys. Yeah. We need to clap for these guys. One clap. We have Mr. Zavare. We need to clap for you. They are clapping for Zimbabwe. You have managed to, in the name of God, you have managed to, this thing would have killed very many down there. Look at our behavior here in Nairobi. Our behavior is very appalling. We don't wash hands. We eat meat and double. We dance up to morning. When the government has said don't dance, these younger men remove their ties and they go until morning. When they come from there, they have not washed their hands. But the good thing in Zimbabwe, you are disciplined people. You have morals. The honest thing is that Zimbabwean population still has morals. That is a tick. They have morals. You can go there one time, the panel, most of you, I will take you there one day. They accept a traffic light regulation. In Kenya, if Wesonga is driving behind you with his BMW, and you stop at the zebra crossing, Wesonga will hoot at you to go quick. In Zimbabwe, even if it is night and the red light is on, you will stand. You will stand until the blue light, the green light comes, then you drive. We have not done it in our countries. So a country still has morals. The morality is still there. This morning, Miriam, you picked something from the panel, which we had. It says morals have decayed here. We even celebrate thieves. When a thief comes with a new Range Rover, you say, hallelujah, the village is now on fire.
Our thief has arrived.
No, that's what is happening to Africa.
Our thief has arrived.
We give them home welcome. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna thief. Hosanna, Hosanna. This is the country Africa must wake up. For us to invest, we must invest, but we must have a nation changing tactics, fighting a battle, a media. I'm happy that my friend from London is here, Zavare, and Amai Bogi Shumba, you are here. It is not a matter of keeping quiet. Most of you who might have seen me in London, you saw the way the headlines about me on Zimbabwe. You must have read them. They were not very good headlines. A whole Telegraph newspaper read by almost 2 billion people worldwide. My picture and my family were on it, front page. Breaking news, Mugabe's mouthpiece is here. That was the headline in the Telegraph. And I walk out, my wife said, what is this that you have brought for us? That's a headline meant to finish me. But I have not kept quiet to talk about Zimbabwe, to defend Zimbabwe. So, good, London people are online. Munei, Wesonga, you have to, I know it is itching, but we have some time. We still have 30 good minutes. Let's hear from the guest from London. Mr. Munei, thank you very much. Your contribution. We have a panel, the rest you know them, Miriam, Abigail, Professor Nyari, Magaza, Kidi, Sin Wesong, Sean, and then Musa Abidi has brought very good points. The economic hub, a free economic hub where Zimbabwe can be given help, donors, conference. That's the suggestion. Donor conference. Africa has never held a donor conference for Zimbabwe. How many people in the world, the Dagotes will contribute money? Why do we run into other places? And then he brought a question of our economics. Is it the economics right? Abigail had a point there, and we shall come back to you. Is the economic policy correct? And Philip Chavata should not hide on this. Philip Chavata should come out because it's very near Mutuli. Mutuli, what is that man called? The minister called Mutuli. I don't know that one there. The Oxford guy. Next week we need to touch that Oxford policies. Are they working? Because we are not going to know. Our program is watched by the government. President Uhuru Kenyatta wants to hear what he can invest there, what Kenya can invest. But if the policies are becoming so globalization policies, you know, I see some nature of global I have seen them and I've been watching them. The only person who has restrained me from saying it is my elder. But for me, I don't fear. I go for giants. There is something wrong in Mutuli, which is not very right. It's not working. For example, a MasterCard, you say you don't want the Zimbabweans to be blacklisted. Can I ask you one question? As soon as you swipe your MasterCard, where does it go?
New York.
It tells you live in Bindura, plot number this, Lupin in Rupane, you have 6 children in Rupane. Now, this is how they are even targeting us. Now you are giving, instead of coming to Kenya to exchange credit card with a bank in Kenya, which will not ask something in Rupane. You have gone to America, which asks, are you near River Zambezi? Yes, he has 6 children near River Zambezi in Victoria Falls. Yeah, that's the man. He supports Mnangagwa. Put him on sanctions. You don't know how they are putting these guys themselves. You go and show your credit cards in Dubai. How much money you have in those credit cards? Wanakupata. When they get you are every time you are drinking that beer, that wine, you are drinking, America is watching you. And now you have handed over this whole thing to America. Our data.
We are not afraid of them. We are not afraid of them.
You have handed Chabata is in South Africa now. He's handing over the data to the Americans. So for me, why don't you operate like me, who has a local credit, a local debit card? My card is debit local. I don't deal with any bank internationally. Period. It's a Kenyan local. And that is the end. I don't want a credit card. I don't want your credit. Don't give it to me. Because I don't need it. I'll eat what I have. My phone is pay as you go. If I've paid, I've talked and it is finished, I keep quiet. I'll not call Musa anywhere. And if you hear I've not called you, my money is finished. So when you see me calling, I have put there more money. But is Zimbabwe, are the policies very good for investment? That is the question, Zavari.
Thank you very much. My apologies for coming in early. I mean, as you know, we often change time from summertime to winter time and the rest of it. And when I was invited to come, I got muddled my time there. Didn't realize that we were now 2 hours behind Kurt and the meeting that I needed to clear off before I could join. I'd set my mind on 10 and then realized, oh no, actually, it's supposed to be 8 a.m., which I couldn't make. But thanks very much for the support and the solidarity which as African brothers and sisters have shown towards Zimbabwe. over the last two and a half decades of economic restrictions, economic sanctions on Zimbabwe. And of course, before I make my contribution, Dr. Matsanga, you've touched on something that is very, very important and significant as regards to security, individual personal security, when it comes to banking systems and using these credit cards and stuff. It is one of those things, not only Zimbabweans, but perhaps across Africa, where many of us don't realize what is actually happening, how we make ourselves vulnerable with certain technological things that we crave for, because people, as much as people may be given some assurances that if you've got an iPhone, you'll never have your information shared. iPhone won't do this, because it don't do that to an American citizen, not to somebody in Africa or anywhere else. So personal data, I think, is something that as Africans, as Zimbabweans, we don't think much about it and how important it is to secure our own personal data. We just give it willingly and throw it, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on WhatsApp, whether it's TikTok, and all these social media things. I mean, you can pretty much write someone's autobiography these days while he's still sitting in London and they are in Harare or Bulawayo or in Hwange somewhere. You can write their autobiography by just what they post on social media, on Facebook. And a lot of people, of course, don't realize the implications. So thank you for touching that. But that will be, I think, an issue to discuss at some other point in terms of personal security. And of course, personal security expands to community security, the society security, and the state security itself. So thank you for that. I think it's something that we can share notes, exchange notes as Africans, and tap into Zimbabwe and just say, guys, some of these things, you're making yourself vulnerable to continuous attacks from your adversaries in the West because you are doing A, B, C, D, and that gives them information in terms of what you're doing, what your next step. They can anticipate what we are doing through these technological exchanges, and we've got to be very careful and see how we can encrypt our information, because the things that you look at and you just say, this, how did we, have our enemies know about this and stuff? Because some of it, of course, is complicated information where, it's decoded and stuff. But most of it is open source. We give it away ourselves. You don't have to go too far to get information or some things about our ministers, about our security sector and stuff. You just go on a day-to-day newspaper. You just go on social media, and you've got a lot of information. So we need, as Zimbabweans, I think, to see how we can secure ourselves as regards to information and data. So it is quite important for us to share those notes, and for us fellow African brothers to help us as regards to that. Now that brings me to the few points that I have on the subject matter, which as I understand, how can AU and SADC tap into the rich, vast human natural resources base Zimbabwe possesses? Now, the challenge that I have in my thinking as a student and a graduate, I mean, a student in the sense that I'm continually trying to learn, even after having a few qualifications in diplomacy and a few qualifications in intelligence and security. I believe in continuous learning of how things will be happening. And my biggest challenge that I have with us as Africans is is that not only looking at Zimbabwe, but I ask myself, who is the AU for? Yeah. Who is SADC for? Okay, and time and again, that question keeps up. Okay, you know, I write a lot, and sometimes I don't get to publish what I write. But when I ask these questions, I then start digging and seeing and looking at who exactly is it for, and whose interest is it serving. You know, yes, we call it African Union, but is it serving the African country's interest? We call it SADC. It is about Southern African Development Community, but is it really serving us, our interests? Now, our interests are not just political independence, which we gained. Our interests are economic, social. You know, even our cultural preservation falls into that. But you know, the biggest challenge that we have is for some reason, I don't get it, because we seem to be happy to continue being a donor-dependent continent. Yeah. When in actual fact, most of the resources that are sustaining the world, whether it is the Chinese, whether it is the Russians, whether it is the Americans or the British, these resources are coming from Africa, by and large. Okay, sometimes some of them are coming from Asia. So if the whole village is feeding from my homestead, from my field, how come myself and my family are in continuous and perpetual poverty? You know, and I have to ask myself that question. If I don't, I'm not sure that I'm prepared for development. I'm prepared to change. I'm prepared. Even the nature of help that I get is a problem. So I'll give you an example. Just, you know, a few years back in 2017, we have UNESCO coming up and saying they've got a regional strategy for SADC, and you know, and of course for Africa at large. Now, please don't get me wrong. I have no problem with these international organizations. Okay, the United Nations and the rest of them. Okay, in a sense, I have, because I know how they are funded and whose interest they are there to push. And we know how the United Nations has been formed. In fact, if there is one thing that we as Zimbabweans should learn, is to learn from our history. And to learn, of course, also and understand the history of all these institutions. Every time there's a debate or a discussion in Zimbabwe, it is all about, oh, it is international standards, or it is international institutions saying this. Whose international institutions? Whose international standards? Are we not capable of setting our own standards as Zimbabweans, as Africans, and say, this is what we want to live our lives with? Do we have to train and teach our children to emulate Eminem or someone who is in the United States or in Australia? And this is at the center of our problems. Most of our problems, we will never accept this as not only as Zimbabweans, but as Africans. We are putting on a gown. I mean, the Christian side of me is always reminded of David when I'm getting in some of these battles. David is given a war armor to put on by Saul to fight Goliath. Within a moment, he realizes I'm not going to be able to fight because these are not my natural clothes. This is not who I am. I can't fight this war like this. I need to be in my comfort zone, in my own armor, the way I've always fought lions, the way I've always fought bears and stuff. That's what I need to be in. So what am I saying by this? I'm simply saying we got to go back to why we went on to fight for political independence. If we are going to win the war on economic independence, we need to guide our loins in that way and just realize that Europe only trades and do business with us for its own interest, not for our interest. We got to wake up to that as a country, Zimbabwe, as Africa at large. The only reason, when you look at the European Union, how it was formed, to those who have studied history, it had nothing to do with us Africans. It had everything to do with Europe reconstructing itself after its two devastating world wars. And they realized we need to develop ourselves. How do we develop? And they started building, which is more or less the concept of the AU, when it started. But our problem is we give all our control and management to the Europeans, to the Americans. In any case, I still don't understand for my life, how as African Union, we can't fund ourselves, our activities. We have to be donor dependent. We have to rely on the United States. We have to rely on the European Union. We have to rely on the Turkish to fund our development. There's a problem. If you are, most of us, we grew up.
Munei, Mama Amai Abigail says she has a meeting to run to.
Yeah.
I want you to spare your 1 minute, which I was going to give you, to spare her to finish, to summarize for us. She runs off, and then you will have 2 minutes. Then we're Songa, then Shumba, and then we come back for summary.
Okay.
Starting from Magaza, Chabati, and the rest. Amaya Abigail.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, Doc. And I was already content by listening to my brother there, while he was actually questioning the issue of African Union failing to fund itself, its operation, not to speak about funding Zimbabwe, not to speak about funding and rescuing probably Kenya, failing to run its own affairs, just an institution, that's just an organization. It seems we have got an American African Union and an American SADC right up there. Probably we need to redefine these institutions. Do we still need them? Do we need to amend something? Do we need to reposition them, or totally to write off them and craft something that will be Afrocentric and, of course, speak to exactly what we want? Because the only reason for this institution is to center the interest of member states and, of course, the interest of the African people. Coming back home, I think you hinted on the issue around the policies. Doc, you challenged us to respond to issue of policies. Let me tell you, probably I need to be very frank. We have been having a very fluctuating environment in terms of policies, economic policies. And of course, that has been affecting the investor confidence. And you touched on the issue of our professor, the highly learned professor in courts, Professor Mtuli Ngube. You actually highlighted the issue of domesticating these languages and these strategies, because if you try to bring a global solution home, probably those shoes was too big for us. We may not even understand it. We need everything domesticated, simplified, and of course, in any job, you don't need to be overqualified. To be overqualified is also a problem if we are trying to solve a real problem home.
In fact, Abigail, you can lose an interview.
you exactly. So
if you are going to be qualified, if you are going for an interview in Britain and you produce master's degree, PhD, professor papers.
You lose.
The man interviewing you started as an office messenger. You will not get it.
You lose it. So I think we need also to introspect on these issues. Do we really need a globalized professor to deal with a domestic problem here home? Probably we need to look into that. But also, as I part, I wanted to also to say, in terms of policies again, we are radically supporting what some of our comrades here home are not supporting very much, the Patriotic Act. Because we are having a problem emanating from home where everyone is speaking like a foreign affairs minister, they speak like ambassadors, they speak like representatives of everyone. So we have channels and diplomatic channels on how a nation should be represented. And of course, after attaining the political independence in 1980, we forgot to put burglar bars on the home Zimbabwe. We forgot actually to put doors and locks on the home Zimbabwe. Just like any household, I think we actually need a patriotic act to guide the communication that and the correspondence between Zimbabwe and the other nations. So I think this is the loophole that has been used by the opposition, and in particular, I'm one way an opposition official. I think this is the loophole that has been used by the enemy. Now we are realizing that a mayor, someone can report to the US and quantify the issue around human rights, some of these things which are not even true. So we are rallying behind the Patriotic Act that should actually work more like what is happening in the US. They have got the Logan Act. They are protecting their nation. And of course, the national interest is reigning supreme in everything that is happening. So here home, we are supporting the issue of the Patriotic Act. We are saying it's long overdue. We need it in place and to make sure that the country goes forward. And I think in summary, thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Masanga. Thank you. I was having this brother of mine. Today I was listening to all these professors. I think I learned a lot today. And I think we are challenged to continue to take the struggle forward. We want to build a formidable economic struggle upon the political independence that we got, and of course, as a nation and as Africa. Thank you so very much, Doctor.
Oh, thank you very much, Abigail. We wish you good luck in your next meeting, and let's see you next week with another topic. Definitely. She has raised very important points. And some of the points I don't want to repeat here. I've been crying for the same. You see, there is one thing saying you are working so hard. But when you are working so hard and you have taken a uniform, oversized, a big or tight, too tight. Again, I go to the book of Wall Senyika, The Lion and the Jewel. Mr. Lakunule came with a suit from London, and I thought he was very smart. But the people, Africans, looked at him and said, but the trousers reaches the knees. What is going on here, my brother? Are you wearing a skirt? So, is there a problem with the Zimbabwe economy? Is somebody has put too big a size on this economy and failed to see how natively from inside, does it need a political, economic, legal bypass? Have you got that term, Chabata? So that you repeat it to your friend. It needs a legal, it needs an economic, political, legal bypass. The heart is finished. So what do you do? I'm teaching you so that I know you go and tell them. The heart is finished. So you need to lose another bypass somewhere here. It passes then. So you need an economic, political guru, a man who knows the background of the politics of Zimbabwe, and a man who knows the economics, so that you don't fall into a category where now you see Zavare is even more scared, Abigail is more scared. Zavare cannot tell you exactly, but he's not happy with the economic, fluctuations that we see. Oh, this one, or that one, or this one, try. Don't become an experiment. Experiments killed Gorbachev. The Soviet Union went down, man. Yeah. And the more you carry these experiments, be careful. The nearer the regime change. Yeah. It brings you, yes, George Soros is using all tactics.
Yeah.
Can you see, yes, all tactics. Our country here, Kenya, where we are, George Soros has arrived. He's telling the NGOs to oppose everything President Uhuru Kenyatta is doing. across in Uganda, they have arrived already. They even paid 5 million shillings, $5 million in cash.
Wow.
For a political party. $5 million cash. The musician has never even seen $1 million cash. His bank was started smiling. So, as the professor said, we have talked and talked and talked, but people are not picking. Tomorrow you are coming with another policy. We don't know which one you are going to bring. So how will the investors come? So also, these are the things that we wanted to highlight. Remember, economic, political, legal bypass is the solution. Bogi Shumba, my mama. Amai Bogi Shumba, are you there?
I'm there, Dr. Matsanga.
Makorokoto.
Makuru Chaizo. I'm sorry, I couldn't be on the panel today because my voice is a bit croaky.
Okay, but we can hear you.
Thank you. Abigail, how are you?
Abigail is gone.
Oh, is she gone?
Yeah, we only have one lady against 7 men.
No, that's all right. I'm here.
She's Miriam on the panel. She's in the headquarters of Punchline. Thank you very much. Abigail is gone. Shombi is in London. She's a teacher in London, Miriam. And any contribution, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. I was definitely following, and it was quite interesting to hear all the wonderful ideas from us. I want to agree with you. Honestly speaking, I don't see much coming from our own, like our AU, from the SADC in terms of helping ourselves. There is need that we assist one another. But to me, it appears as though we are afraid of some giant which is hidden somewhere to come out and stand with our own. And this applies right across the board. And honestly speaking, if that is broken, that is our breakthrough. That will be our major breakthrough. And we can see even when any one of our countries is being targeted by this giant whom we perhaps all know, but still we are afraid of coming out and say, look here, giant, if we all come together, definitely we can do something to destroy you. Unfortunately, this is the situation.
Thank you, Wesonga. We come back to Wesonga in Nairobi. Please make it short. There's something, patriotism. Someone talked about the Patriotism Act. Does Kenya also need patriotism? I think so. I wrote something like that this morning. What do you think, Wesonga? Have we lost patriotism?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And of course, the field has been exhaustively exploited by my fellow panelists. And, I really just want to reiterate on that point. I feel like it's not only here in Kenya, but Africa at large. Remember, when we are fighting for our independence, we had a common cause, a common purpose of getting back our land, getting back our rights and our country's sovereignty. And that is why we fought side by side with our neighbors in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Uganda, Tanzania, and Cameroon. And we were able to defeat the colonialists and be able to bequeath independence to our future generations. And therefore, my quintessential question, perhaps to the African people, why is it that right now Zimbabwe is grappling under unlawful sanctions, but we are not coming together to be able to fight for the sanctions to be lifted the same way we did when we were fighting for our independence? Remember, when Zimbabwe started mining the diamonds at Morange in the southwestern part of the country, they were able to broker some bilateral relations in terms of trade with some European countries, which allowed them to be able to find a market in Europe for these diamonds. So that tells you that if SADC can come together, if the neighbors of Zimbabwe, if the African continent under AU can come together and be able to sit as a united front and be able to face the West and America and other countries that can provide a potential market for Zimbabwean products, then we shall be able to bypass these sanctions and broker a deal that will enable Zimbabwe also to enjoy the returns from the global economies and trade. So to me, I think the point is about our people, our African people, going back to the drawing board and being able to be part of the solution of the problem that is facing the people of Zimbabwe. That is my short input, Dr. Masanga, on that.
Miriam. Now, we have Mr. Munei to finish up. Just 1 minute, Mr. Munei, then I come to Kidi Mwaga.
That's okay.
And then I hand over the baton back to Miriam to bring in Professor for Miriam. I wanted you to rest your voice for 3 p.m. You will give your views, but at 3 p.m. is going to be yourself. I'm disappearing. So after Munei, then Kidi, then Magaza, then Philip, then Miriam. And that is Miriam calls upon, summarizes all what we have said. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dr. Matsang. There's something that we have just said and spoken about there in terms of investment in investors. You see, this is one interesting take for me. Every time is Africa or in Zimbabwe, we are talking about investors. For some reason, we don't see our fellow blacks in Kenya or Uganda or Cameroon as investors. We tend to think that investors have got to come from Europe or America or from Russia and stuff. And this is one of our biggest challenges and problems that we have as a continent and as a country. So if you look at, say, some of the major resources that that are global resources, for example, oil. Angola, which is in SADC, is the second largest producer of oil in Africa and the 8th in the world. And we've got Namibia coming in there with about 11 billion of oil reserves that are yet to be explored. And you go across to Mozambique and in Malawi, you see gas and other resources as well. Now, can you honestly tell me that a region of SADC with 15, 16 member countries cannot trade among itself and regard itself as investors investing in one another and pulling our resources together to develop our countries? The same within the whole framework of the COMESA market or the whole AU, African Union. Why are we happy to be exploited first by people we call foreign investors that are coming from Europe, that are only in Africa to exploit resources and take whatever they can so that they can feed their own families back here in London or back in New York or in Beijing or in Moscow? You see, we got to start thinking beyond what we are currently doing. I'm not a fan of IMF. I'm not a fan of a World Bank. My views are known on that. I'm only restricted because I love my country. I love my political party that I belong to. So I restrict myself as regards to what I can say. But I've seen those, some of the problems that we have as Zimbabweans. You can take them back to when we accepted to be an experiment of IMF through Economic Structural Adjustment Program, ESAP, which basically destroyed most of our industry, most of our manufacturing. But we are still desperate to be approved by the World Bank, to be approved by IMF. The solutions that come from those countries, those institutions, are not suited for us, are not suited for our own environment, for our own economic situation. So there are serious discussions that we must have as Africans as regards to what we want our sustainable development to be. We craft very fantastic, very brilliant documents. If you look at Agenda 2063, if you look at sustainable development we are fantastic on these theoretical things. But for some reason, we don't actually see the infrastructure we want. We can build it together as Africans, just like what Europe did with free movement of people. Britain was reconstructed by the workforce of the French, the workforce of the Dutch. So was Hungary reconstructed, and so forth. And in Africa, we don't seem to value each other as investors in our own countries, in our own communities, in our own economies. And that is where the problem is. We are reliant on theories that come from Oxford University, that come from Cambridge, that come from Harvard, that have got nothing to do with us. We allow ourselves to be prescribed solutions by someone who has never set their own foot in Africa. Just like what Louis Mountbatten did by drawing up a map of the continent or dividing India and Pakistan, sitting, in the Lord Chancellor's office in London. This is the same solutions that we are prescribed by the IMF and World Bank, and it presents a challenge for me. We will continue going on this quagmire in circles and not actually have sustainable development. Occasionally, we can be satisfied by crumbs that fall on our tables, but that is not really what we want as Africa and Africans. Sadly, we are training even our children to believe that everything must come from Ghana in Europe. I mean, you hear this on the streets with Pasina Murunga, Panachino Fambago man. Without a white person, nothing will move. Really? So why do we have brains? We might as well give up our lives and just, and just be colonized again, because we don't seem to think progressively and have homegrown solutions, developments that are homegrown, not this IMF, World Bank, foreign direct investment. What foreign direct investment? Can anyone ever love Zimbabwe more than I do as a Zimbabwean, or Africa as an African? Really? You just tell me that someone who's failing to feed their own children here in the United Kingdom, in schools, Boris Johnson, will love an African who he regards to have a Piccaninny smile? Really? Seriously? I don't understand it. I don't. For my life, I don't understand it. But, we...
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Munei. Kiddy.
Yes, sir.
Will a British love you more? A quick one. You have got 1 minute. Then Professor, then our guests. Professor, today I beg you to summarize this thing for me.
Thank you, Daktari. Well, one thing I would say is that President Emerson should be given time to be able to transform his polity, because governance is not a walk in the park, and therefore some of the ideas you have and put in place take time to materialize. It must be remembered that President Emerson came into office against the backdrop of an economy that had suffered decades of sanctions and embargoes. And therefore, before we even lobby for lifting of these sanctions and embargoes, to even, let's say, inject cash, money into Zimbabwean economy, as my brother has said, is that can African polities be able to craft a modality of running away from the debilitating sanctions placed by the West, so that they can establish a trade within and among themselves in isolation that is then cushioned against the interference of the West. The other thing is that this happens against the backdrop of the Western countries that have consistently viewed Africa as a source of raw material, and they've acted like as patrons, so that they have viewed themselves as people with everything to give, but with absolutely nothing to learn from Africa. So it is incumbent upon us to stand up for ourselves and for our brothers and to give them a new lease of life. Thank you, Daktari.
Thank you very much. Now I go to Magaza.
Thank you, Doctor.
Parting shots.
Exactly. This has been a very interesting and eye-opening discussion. I just hope what came into my mind during our discussions is that when Greece fell upon hard times and they had an economic recession, the entire European Union came together and bailed it out, meaning to say it is a partner. Now Zimbabwe is in a similar quagmire, and then that is when we find the need for SADC and the African Union. Not the typical statements which are just put on pen and social media that sanctions should be lifted. We need action on the ground. They should come the countries together, lift out Zimbabwe, inject cash into the economy, lift up industry. Those professionals who have been talking about should come back, put their heads together, bring their knowledge and expertise to revive industry. And then the industry will start running again, and then Zimbabwe will get back to its bread basket status. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mangaza there. So perhaps we bring in Mr. Philip Chabata, if he's still there.
Well, thank you, my dear, for the opportunity. I think this was very eye-opening. I heard a lot, and I learned a lot, actually. But let me say that from henceforth, I would want us to begin seriously looking at Zimbabwe is just one case that is past another level, because we now have our land. Whatever people say, we are okay. In Shona, we say Titori Boso. No, now the next thing that I think would help or enhance the African community is possibly for us to know the injustices that has been done on Africa and how we can put our heads together to fight these injustices as Africans and move forward to build ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And also the other thing that I would want us to begin thinking of, which I'm picking from our discussion, is that we need to be patriotic enough, and we need to teach our young people what really human rights are. There are lots of inhuman rights like gay rights and all this, which are beginning to be propelled like human rights. Those are not human rights. Human rights are the violations which were done on Africa by the Europeans. And we need to begin to put our heads and demand repression. If we begin to do that, they will give us respect. They will not continue to come and steal. Look at the areas like Congo, where it's so rich, but they're ravened by war, which is perpetuated by these so-called Western countries and so-called Westerners. We need to begin to stand up together, put our heads together, and fight together and build together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you very much, Magaza, for your contribution. Thank you very much, Philip Chabata, for your contribution. I think now time is Wesonga. Shumba, before I come to Wesonga, then hand it over to Miriam to invite the professor to close the session. Shumba, are you there?
Yes, I am. Is that me coming?
Yes, parting short.
Yeah, I'll just say, to be honest, there is need for us to come together and change our mentality. Probably, I would think, perhaps because of, as an educationist, I would think the first port of call should be our curriculum. If we are going to have something which is a long-term effect solution, because even our children today, they are not coming out of their education thinking of anything except to go abroad and work there. We need to revisit that, our curriculum. Perhaps we might come up with something, Dr. Matsanga, that we could talk about our curriculum, and that is in Africa as a whole. educate a child with the relevant stuff that will make them functional within their own confines.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my Shumba. Education, curriculum.
Yeah.
We teach people to look at the West. We look in London, we look in Washington for hamburger eating. But we are not yet, we can't eat our own salsa. How many people cook salsa in Hamburg, in Washington? Very few people. They prefer rice, they do burgers. You know? I think we should change that curriculum. You are right. Yes, Wesonga.
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, it has been a very productive discourse that we have had here this afternoon. And from my perspective, I tend to look at Africa as a body, as a human body with 56 parts, including the Amazonia, which is also considered as an African state. So therefore, if any part of the body is under some kind of suffering or some kind of duress, the entire body ceases to be in its wellness and its right state of performance. And therefore, the African people and the states should look at the sanctions of Zimbabwe not only as a Zimbabwean problem, but as a problem of the entire continent. And therefore, that drives the need for them to come together under a united banner to be able to press for these sanctions to be lifted, because when Zimbabwe is impacted economically, these trickle effects goes all the way back to its neighbors in the southern region, its neighbors in the western and eastern parts of Africa, as well as the north. So to me, I believe it's high time we as Africans really reconsidered the reasons why we fought for our independence, the reasons why we should also now surge ahead and fight for our economic independence from the West. We should renegotiate the terms of engagement that we've been having with America and the rest of the world. That is my part in short.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you. Mine are two words that I've picked out of this. I hope Philip Chabata, you are watching, and Mr. Zavare. Two words or three. Look at your economy. The mechanism, the methods, the mechanisms of the economy. What is it that is there, which is not, it is not coming?
The banking.
Yeah, that's
the
one.
Banking system, the banking and the
there's something wrong that has not, it has not clicked, and therefore don't hesitate to tell it to the boss. There's something that is not working.
The boss knows the banking.
We have run.
Somebody who can do.
We have run too much, globalized ourselves, become very good suit wearers like Mr. Chabata with his suit in Johannesburg. He doesn't want to wear a plain sweater like a Matanga. He's in the suit. We have globalized ourselves, and there is a danger there. As the economy of Zimbabwe.
I'm meeting investors. You know, you see.
No investor will give you business if you are not in a tie. Yeah, you are right. Now, the seriousness is this. Take this advice. You need a holistic approach. Holistic approach, completely. Changing the...
Unfortunately, today the investors are going to Malawi.
Yes, changing the banking system, changing the systems of how you transfer your money, export licensing, make regimes. Those things have to change. And somebody has to look at them. For example, there is a law in Zimbabwe that allows you to export your flowers and the bank, the money there, and they come with very little. Isn't it there? It is there in the central bank. You bank the money and then come with something. return something. Why do you return something? Why don't you return pharmaceuticals, drugs for the hospital? Because the flowers did not grow in the moon. The flowers grow on the Zimbabwe soil. So it is the government soil. That's how I will teach you one thing, but one. Two, patriotism. It has been knocked on. I am happy you are bringing the Patriotic Act. Not everybody to run around doing things that are not worth it. Even somebody who doesn't know where Lupane is, but is from Zimbabwe, he said Lupane is in Malawi. So that one is very good. The last thing is to open up. Don't rely on AU. There's no AU. Boss,
it's dead. It's dead. We need to remove FAC there.
Professor will tell you there's no AU. It is dead. It died. It's captured. There's no AU. Don't rely on it. Even the SADC itself, what will you rely on the SADC? The only thing SADC agrees is meetings. Very good meetings, organized with suits, perfumes, but there is nothing they can organize money. Ramaphosa himself is more of this guy of Microsoft. Yes. He can only talk to Microsoft. He can't talk to you. What will he talk to you about? As Ramaphosa tried to take a serious visit in Zimbabwe, to sit down with Mnangagwa and say, brother, what can I help you? No, he sends delegations that are muzzled up. Some of the women just come to look for their boyfriends whom they left in Harare. So this is...
I'm not there.
This one, I am telling you, I speak my mind. I know them. And I have a photograph, I have evidence. So if you challenge me...
Can you share with me those photographs?
Don't worry. So, yeah, you can't bring Lindiwe Zulu to come to Zimbabwe. He's coming for somebody. We know him. I've caught them in a hotel in South Africa before. So what about there? So this whole thing in SADC, what boss, Mr. Man who is summarizing this topic, it does not work. Let's look for a union, donor country, donor community, donor our Africans, ourselves. Let one African multimillionaire stand and say, I am calling for a donor conference for Zimbabwe. Even if they raise $1 million, it will help for medicines and the children will be happy. But if you wait for these countries outside, donor, United Nations or Commonwealth or which one, they will not help you. Until ourselves we change the hearts, there's nothing we can change. We shall only lament and remain lamenting. We have become a book of lamentation. Thank you. Over to you, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. I don't know, did Abdi leave the conversation, Musa?
Yeah, he did.
All right, Professor, finish it for us.
Miriam, thank you. This has been a great topic for us to discuss. And I've been reflecting what Dr. Masanga said, that is on his sunset years. He has done much. He's entering the sunset years, but not yet there still. But Africa, Miriam, has got work to be done.
Sunset, Professor. Even after my birthday, you can see when I clicked 65. Can't you not see that I'm not myself now? I'm going. Sunset. I cannot run for the plane anymore. I cannot shout the way I did, Baba. Even things have changed.
And he has, let me just make my submission. Thank you, Dr. Masanga. And he has been the voice of the continent of Africa.
Yes.
You see, he has stood for Kenya, he has stood for Zimbabwe, and is a true Pan-Africanist. Paul talks to Galatians chapter 3, verse 1. You foolish Galatians, who bewitched you? If around me I call you foolish African, who bewitched us? And I've said that Africa, Miriam, has got work to be done. And this African work must be done by us. The question we have been discussing, Miriam, how can African Union and SADC tap into rich, fast human and natural resources placed in Zimbabwe possesses? We will only do this, Miriam, if we have to look back and see why was African Union formed? Why was SADC formed? And perhaps when we look back, we started thinking what we need to do. And this is where I'm talking about the new Masangas, the new generation. Muneyi, Chapata, Wesonga, Miriam. We have to come and take Africa forward. Africa Union and SADC has come to a point to be engineered. We need to rebrand. We need to reposition ourselves. We need to come with redemption strategy on how we have to redeem Zimbabwe and the African continent. Miriam, we cannot rest until we start on how to rebuild Africa. Africa is down there. Everybody is fighting for the resources of the African continent. Dr. Masanga raised a very fundamental point. He said there is a conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They can take their natural resources, and there is a conflict in Zimbabwe, which is not there. Miriam, time has come for us to restart redoing and reworking on how we have to take Zimbabwe forward. We have to change our strategy. We have to start coming together as a people. Miriam, hear this. The continent of Africa has what 1.2 billion population. That's a huge market, Miriam. If only we need to re-engineer ourselves and start looking and see the founding fathers of this continent, the Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, Kaunda, Comrade Bob, and many others, Milton Obote, Haile Selassie. Where have the African leaders gone? Why are they watching the continent of Africa being raped? Why should we see the children of Zimbabwe not going to hospital, not going to school, not having food, not having water? And then we say that business is no more? No, we have to change. And Miriam, the best thing we have done is do nothing. Let us take our generation to talk. Someone told this, and this is where I'm going to submit, that Miriam, if you want to hide something from an African, what do? You write in a book, because we don't read. But if you want to be very careful with an African, tell them the story. So Miriam, let us start telling the story. Let us start opening the African eyes, and we shall be there, Miriam. I submit.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. I don't know if Bongi Shumba is still there, but thank you so much, all of you, for your time today. Of course, the thing that has come out of this conversation is the very, even shameful fact that as Africans, we don't even trust each other. When we think about investors, I don't think about a Ugandan, I don't think about a Tanzanian, I don't think about a Zimbabwean who will come in and start something and invest in my country. We think about somebody from the Western nations there. So it's about time we start valuing each other as Africans and have enough respect for the other person as an African, so the rest of the world can respect us and can value who we are and what we are. They cannot do that unless we do that for ourselves. Thank you so much. We shall see you next time. For now, it's bye-bye.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.